Greetings, welcome. I am so excited to be introducing Kimberly Seals Allers, our keynote speaker for today. Kimberly Seals Allers is an award-winning journalist, five-time author, international speaker, and strategist for maternal and infant health, a former senior editor at Essence Magazine, and writer at Fortune Magazine. Kimberly is a leading voice on birth, breastfeeding, and motherhood at the intersections of race, class, and policy. She is the founder of Irth, as in birth, but without the B for bias, is the first of its kind Yelp-like review and rating app for Black and brown women and birthing people to leave and find reviews of OBGYNs, hospitals, and pediatricians as a digital tool to address bias and racism in care and bring transparency and accountability to the medical system. Kimberly, we welcome you here today and look forward to learning from you and all of the things.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Always such an honor to share space with everyone and to be of service to the great work that you're doing, Chanel. Excited to be here. All right, let me share screen and get this party started. Let's see if this will all work properly. Okay. Come on. Okay, let's try that. Nope, that wasn't it. You're sharing that part. Okay, I'm going to try one more time. If not, I know Chanel has it. It's not giving me the option to just share my slides, which are behind here. Chanel, do you know what I need?
Let me check, or maybe I can just, if you go to share screen, you should be able to hit window and it should be able to pull up the window that you're looking for.
Okay, now it's giving me window. All right, we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, cool. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be in conversation with you around, how we can do the work that we know needs to be done and thinking about the different ways. And I know we've been talking about this throughout the conference, that technology can be used in service of Black birthing people and to improve the experience of care. So, although there are many things going on to address what we know is at the root of this system, racism and bias, I'm here to talk to you about two specific things: the power of your mobile phones and the power of our stories, right? And how these two can come together to really push for change. So that's what I'm going to focus on. For those who don't know a little bit about me, as Chanel mentioned, I came to this work as a journalist, and really through my own motherhood experience was, transformed and activated really to say something's not right here, right? And so that led me to begin to use what I do, which has been writing and communications to address this issue through books, and now kind of thinking about taking that to digital platforms. My nonprofit, Narrative Nation, which runs Irth, also creates the Birthright podcast, where we talk about stories of joy and healing in Black birth, really as a tool to reverse the doom and gloom narrative that's often so common in Black maternal health. So we tell joyful stories, and we also have healing episodes called Restoration, where we sit with those who may have had birth trauma and pair them with a therapist who can take them on a healing journey. So this is, the core of what I do and why this issue is so important to me. In addition, after spending that time, I was also able to work on the ground for over 8 years, mostly with the support of the Kellogg Foundation, working in my community. We started in Birmingham, Alabama, Jackson, Mississippi. We went to Detroit, we went to Philadelphia, went back to Detroit. But all this time I was listening, right? I was hearing the stories of what was happening to our sisters, other birthing people, really around the ways that they were being dismissed, ignored, particularly in hospital settings. And quite often, too many of them died. right? And it's a story that we all know far too well, what's going on right now in the Black maternal mortality crisis. We just had another sister pass away across the river in New Jersey last week. We also, the week before, there were continued protests for Denise Williams, who died at Queens Hospital back in August after going there for postpartum care, for postpartum depression. And so this issue is not getting any better. And this is the problem. And so we can't fix a problem using the same tools that got us here. That's not going to work. And so what are the new things that we can be using to address this issue? And how do we use our collective power? Not that we are the victims of the Black maternal mortality crisis, but actually we have power collectively to push for change. And so we know that this issue is not about low-income women. We know from listening to Serena's story and so many others, folks who you think who have money and access and sometimes celebrity, but still were dismissed, still were ignored, and many times still died, despite having the things that we think would be protective, but we know they are not protective factors for Black women. And we cannot decouple what's going on with birth outcomes. Hope some of you know I'm also the co-founder of Black Breastfeeding Week. And so what's going on in birth, breastfeeding, and infant mortality cannot be ignored. They cannot be looked as siloed incidents, particularly when we consider the racist history that got us here when we were birthing, when our children had economic value, right? And that was a value to the white mainstream system for us to have children. But when our children lost economic value and Black women lost economic value as breeders and feeders, what happened, right? All of a sudden, now we are diminished. Black motherhood is denigrated. Our children are worthless. And so it is not lost on me that the people who were birthing the most, breastfeeding the most, are now the ones who are breastfeeding their least. They are dying the most during childbirth, and their infants are dying the most. And so, that irony cannot be lost on any of us. And it also is an important call to action. And so when we think about this, we know it is racism, not race. There is nothing about melanin that contributes to why we're disproportionately dying. But it is the racism toward Black skin that continues to cause Black birthing people to be at greater risk of dying. And all of these things are based on, the whole definition, which is an assigning of value based on social interpretation of how ones look, right? And so a disparity means that they can achieve a standard of care for some people, but not all. Right. I live in New York City, and here our Black maternal mortality rate is up to 12 times that of white women. And so they are able to do it, but they're just not doing it for others. And that's that assigning of value, whose pain levels are valued, whose opinions are valued, whose desires and wishes for their own body and for their children are valued, and whose are not. That is actually the definition of racism. Not to mention the knock-on effects of all that racism does to our bodies individually, but to our communities, to our babies, to our relationships. It is a knock-on effect that is very detrimental. Yet, they know it's happening, right? Bias has been well documented among healthcare professionals. Pretty much every medical journal has shown that bias exists among healthcare professionals, that it is literally affecting care, that it is literally affecting diagnostic care, not to mention people's mortality and morbidity rates. One landmark study showed physicians giving different treatment options for hypothetical white patients than they did for hypothetical Black patients presenting with the same symptoms. So again, there's nothing about being Black that makes you sicker or deserving of this lesser treatment. There is something about racism and bias that causes providers to act in that way. And that is what we have to address. There has been this fallacy that you can professionalize your way out of bias and racism, that you could take a training, that because you're a doctor or because you went to medical school or because you're a nurse. No, it's not true. It's not proven by facts, and we cannot professionalize our way out of bias. There have to be more immersive and many more tools to address it. We've even seen some technology to be biased against Black people, with a common healthcare algorithm found to discriminate against Black patients. So it's not just about technology per se, but who is creating it, who has been centered in this process, who developed it, are also important factors for us to consider. And then another thing they offered was evidence-based research. Very important, very important. But for years, they have been using this evidence-based research, but evidence-based on whom, right? They had a whole evidence-based model for improving maternity care, but I assure you that much of that evidence never included Black and brown folks. And now we can see the impact of that, right? And so when we're thinking about evidence-based, how are we building a new evidence base, a new set of data that is centered on Black and brown folks and our experiences, our lived experience, so that now we are included in this evidence base, which for decades we were not, right? These are the things that are so critical to address. So we look at anti-bias trainings that are going on. They become a tick-the-box exercise for far too many, and there's zero proof that they're working. You know, maternal mortality review boards are really, really important, but it concerns me that they're only analyzed from the grave, right? We cannot view death as the time to analyze. It is not for someone to die that we start to look at what is happening. At Irth, we say, let's learn from the living. Let's learn from the living. It seems like a much better option, right? And that we don't have to wait. I don't want any other Black person or brown person or any person to die. And then that is when we attempt to analyze. Let's learn from living. And so that is why we created Irth as this Yelp-like review and rating platform that can allow us to share our lived experience and then for us to learn from it. And so on the front end, we have a tool so that we can see how others just like us are being treated within the system. When I had my first child, I did all the research, read all the blogs, got on the listservs in New York City, read the U.S. News and World Report, did all the research, right? I'm a journalist. I was researching. But I left that experience feeling completely disrespected, dismissed, traumatized, and it never dawned on me that who I am might have impacted that experience, because the reality was at that time in my life, I was not yet married and I was in grad school at Columbia. So I was on student insurance. And so I was treated like an unwed Black woman with basic insurance. And so those reviews were not helpful to me. They were not rooted in my lived experience. They were not based on my circumstance. And this is the service we seek to solve. So Irth, which is like the word birth, but we dropped the B for bias, is a Yelp-like review and rating platform for Black and brown women and birthing people to find and leave reviews of their OBGYNs, birthing hospitals, pediatricians, all designed to create on the front end a tool for us to search and see how others are being treated before we go to a provider, before we go to a hospital. We can see what our community says. And as we are building up our tools for advocacy resources, while we're pushing for more doulas and making sure they're paid properly, while we're trying to expand midwifery models of care, while we're trying to get more childbirth centers, we have each other. Right? We have each other, and our knowledge and our experiences are powerful if we put them all together in one place and use them for good. And so with Irth, we create this mechanism for you to search for your reviews, leave reviews. We accept reviews not just from the birthing person, but also from fathers and birthing partners, as well as doulas. So doulas, please leave your reviews. We know that that doulas are our eyes and ears, right? Our community watch for birth. You see so much. And so we really want to lift up the knowledge that we know doulas have, the experience that they have, and bring that to a digital platform. Now on the back end, sorry, my slide's a little bit out of order. On the back end, we turn these reviews into quantitative data and qualitative data to work directly with hospitals and providers to improve care. right? This is so important. We know that apps right now are quite popular. We know that pregnancy and parenting is a time for unique sharing. We know that people are now in the room smart with their midwife, doctor, and their phone, tweeting out their births and putting them on Instagram. I've personally seen more vaginas recently than I have in my lifetime, but I'm here for it. And so this is where people are, and how can we use that tool, that momentum, that trend in service of the goals of making this Black birthing experience more equitable. And so I am so proud that Irth was built from the community. Before one piece of code was built, we were on the ground in New Orleans back in 2009, in that wonderful pre-pandemic time that we can't even barely forget, barely remember. But we were on the ground asking questions, listening to the community, out in front of churches, in the offices, really wanting to build Irth with community as a new model of how technology should be developed, not for us, but with us. And so this is one of the things I'm really proud of. Irth was literally created by an all femmes of color team. And so I am super excited that Irth is truly by us and for us, and was built with a new model of how we can co-create, but always centering the communities that we seek to serve. And so in our Irth review screens, we ask lots of questions, right? And so when you leave a birthing review, you will be asked specifically about the doctors, nurses, and lactation consultants. But one of the more important things that we do within Irth is that we really seek to decode bias. Right now, we're having this conversation about bias in a very abstract, esoteric notion, right? People are sitting through a training, they don't think they're doing anything, then people are feeling disrespected, the providers don't know what happened, they're like, did I do that? They have an Urkel moment. It's really frustrating. But there's a huge disconnect between what's happening and how that is being perceived by that individual, right? And so this is a sample of one of our screens in Irth where we ask really specific questions, right? Were you screamed at or yelled at? Was treatment withheld? Were your requests for help ignored or refused? Were your pain levels dismissed? Was your physical privacy violated, right? These are really important details, because when we go to hospitals and we get to show them that we have hundreds or thousands of reviews and this many people said their pain levels dismissed, this many people said their requests for help were ignored or refused, this many people said that their physical privacy was violated, it is powerful, because one person, they will dismiss. 2 people, they were dismissed. 10 people, they may dismiss. But when we use our collective power and we have hundreds or even thousands of reviews, what will they say then, right? This is how we push for change, by using our collective power, by giving them the details. This is where we have our most robust conversations with hospitals and providers, when we can show them what we've analyzed based on these 2 screens. This is where they wake up, right? And so how do we get more folks to leave reviews and share their experiences so that we can show them on the back end what's happening, right? I think the young people call these the receipts, right? And so we show them the receipts, what's happening, what's being reported right within their institutions and at their facilities, and it is powerful. So we serve as this tool. Yes, on the front end, we are here to say, you know what we need to activate to decolonize birth? Our consumer power. Right? And we can use that via technology. And so we give these crowdsourced peer reviews. We want people to care about their Irth reviews, and that our consumer power becomes an effective tool, because they know that we are sharing publicly, and that we are checking out for each other. On the back end, we turn these into actionable data. We want Irth to be that early warning detection system, right? How do we learn from the living so that we can see what's going on before it leads to harm, before an adverse event? Right. We recently did a national data run on Irth a few months ago, and the number one negative experience being reported in Irth right now is requests for help were refused or ignored. Number 2 was I was screamed at, yelled at, or threatened. And number 3 is my pain levels were dismissed, right? This is what's happening. And we cannot ignore it. And when we can look at it collectively on a national level, on a geographic level, even locally, we have power. On the back end, our data is really eye-opening to hospitals, particularly those that think they're doing so great, which cracks me up. But also, I know that racism in New York City is not like racism in Mississippi. And we've been taking one-size-fits-all models when actually Irth provides hyper-local data. What does racism bias look like in your community? From your patients, from those who live around you, right? What are their experience? What does patient safety look like to them? How are we kind of building a whole new set of evidence? But it really needs to be rooted in our lived experience. So that's what we're all about. So we talked about the early warning system. We see a lot in Irth reviews here. Someone was saying they did not listen to my pain levels. Well, when we see this with frequency, that's a red flag. Because we know that in pretty much every maternal death story, somebody's pain levels were ignored, right? And so how do we, again, find this frequency, find these patterns, and use it to push for change before something negative happens, before there's even a need for maternal mortality review board? We also see a lot in Irth reviews around comments about staff and creating a new understanding of what makes people feel safe. You know, seeing someone who looks like you, being listened to. And so we find our analysis on the back end, both our thematic analysis and our sentiment analysis is really helpful in helping hospitals learn from us and our lived experience. Here, this review is talking about feeling pressured, right? Residents coming in, pediatricians coming in, pressuring. What is that about? And then I appreciate this review because even though the experience is not what she wanted, she felt really supported by the NICU staff, right? And that we have the ability to understand the difference between an outcome that we didn't plan for and perhaps didn't want, but how it happened. And that's a distinction that Irth works on. Not necessarily what happened. People are counting those kind of clinical outcomes, but how it happened mattered. And that piece needs to get fixed too, right? That piece needs to get fixed too. And we can see here someone who, even in a NICU experience, was able to say something positive about the staff. And so that's critically important. Sometimes we see experiences, reviews that specifically mention something about the lactation consultants. And these are all the learnings that we can take to different folks within the birth continuum, right? What are we learning in the prenatal space? What are we learning during the birth experience? What are we learning about breastfeeding? And then Irth accepts reviews, don't forget, for that postpartum review, as well as pediatric reviews up to baby's first year. And so how do we expand this to understand how we can even get better treatment for our infants, because we know they are facing the same systemic forces that we are. And so we are here to be a digital tool for the health equity movement and to push for birth justice. We've recently launched hospital pilots in Detroit. We just got funded by the New York State Health Foundation to start a pilot here in New York City. And we expect to have Philadelphia and Los Angeles signed on in the new year. It's a really exciting time for us to use technology collectively to, one, have a tool for us to leverage what we know exists, that we are powerful when we work together. And then on the back end, to use that data to push for change, right? It is not just, when we say Irth is Yelp-like, it is not just a kind of free-form commenting space. It is a structured questioning process so that we get the data on the back end that allows us to go and push for change. Yes, is it important to share your experience? Yes, is it important? It is very important for us to have this public transparency and start to bring accountability to this system which continues to fail us. But I promise you, when you leave your review on Irth, we put it with others. It is constantly being analyzed. We are constantly generating reports to find targets for action, for outreach, and we get to work. That's what we do on the back end. And so we want to create new feedback loops that are all rooted in us, right? All rooted in our experience so that we can move these other pieces of the birth ecosystem into providing more accountability, right? And not accountability to some designation organization, but you're ultimately accountable to the communities that you serve. That's what you're accountable to. And how do we build up that while and pushing for more respectful and equitable care and dealing with all the people in that ecosystem? Irth works with hospitals, doctors, payers, and ultimately we have a vision, right, to become our good housekeeping seal of approval, such that all doctors and hospitals will either desire to be Irth approved because our consumer power has pushed that and made it so, or they will be required to be Irth approved as we work to embed ourselves into local systems, health systems, and other regulatory bodies. And so how does Irth become our beacon? The thing that we look for, that seal that you want to see in your doctor's office, in that hospital lobby, that shows that your community has vouched for this person or this place, right? Your community has vouched for them, not necessarily ACOG. You know, all these other accrediting bodies have issues, but your community is now another resource to improve your chances for better care. We want to identify those who are doing well, right? When a doctor is getting great reviews from Black women, how do we amplify that? How do we celebrate that? And then we need to be developing best practice models when we see well-reviewed providers and hospitals within Irth so they can be replicated. We're working to expand our hospital pilot. So if anybody there is affiliated with a hospital and may be interested in learning more about our hospital pilot, please reach out. And then ultimately, our vision is that Irth becomes this micro-credential, right? We'll develop a curriculum and Irth becomes an Irth approval micro-credential and then a hospital accreditation. But all of this education, all of these requirements will be rooted in our lived experience of care. And that's what we're gathering every day on Irth. I'm so excited about the power and potential. We've seen what online reviews can do in so many other spaces. We've seen the power of Yelp and other review platforms to literally make or break businesses. Can this be leveraged to help improve the Black birthing experience? This is what we are on a mission to find out. I believe that it can, and I would love your help as we continue on this mission. We are currently actively seeking reviews from Black and Latinx folks who are currently pregnant or have given birth in the past 2 years. I can put some links in the chat for you to access our social media toolkit, to share on your social platforms, newsletters, text messages. We are actively looking for more doulas to leave reviews in the app because when we go to a hospital and we may have a couple of hundred reviews for that institution that represents 200 people, but in our doula reviews, we ask, how many births have you assisted with or witnessed at this hospital? And so collectively, those doulas could represent 1,000 births. And so in addition to the patients, we have the doula experience, and we want to lift up the doula's experiential knowledge, what they see, as also as part of this new evidence base that we are taking to hospitals, to providers every day, every week, to push for change. All right. So please help us spread the word. We have promo cards. I'll put a link in the chat if you would like to request that. If you're working in a hospital, we have Irth pins that you may want to use. And I'm super excited to share that part of our New York funding will be for a New York City Irth Ambassador Program, a paid opportunity to really work with us. And to be in part of our inaugural cohort of Irth Sister Friends. And then on December 12th, we're having a doula appreciation brunch for New York City doulas and an informational session for folks to learn more. So please, we'll be sharing that information on social starting this afternoon. So if you want to come, there's a limited number of seats, but you can RSVP. We're going to have brunch. We're going to have great food. We're going to have some mimosas because it's going to be Sunday afternoon. We're going to have some music, and we really want to celebrate all that doulas have been doing. It's been a tough year, and I'm grateful for the ways that doulas and other birth workers are showing up. So please, and if you have suggestions on how we can improve, how we can increase engagement on the app, I am open. I am here. I'm going to share my email. But we have power, right? Our phones are powerful. Our voices are powerful. And together, they can really be a force for good. I often say the experience of being interpreted is different from the experience of being understood. And this is so important. I think for far too long, they've been trying to address Black women, address Black birthing people from this idea of an interpretation, clinical and what do they need, and talking about our high blood pressure without thinking about where that comes from, or talking about our diet without understanding the impact of food insecurity or the high cost of eating well in this country. It's an interpretation. But what we're aiming to develop is the groundwork for us being fully understood, right? To be understood, to be seen and heard in our lived experience, to be valued, and to ask and to now hold folks accountable to that standard. I invite you to join me in this mission as we push to make sure that no one births without Irth, and that Irth can be a powerful tool in our community. This is my email. I want to kind of make sure that I could answer some questions and talk a little bit more about what we're doing. But here's my email, and I think that I can put some links in the chat if I stop sharing.
All right. Give thanks. That was beautiful. And the chat is going off. Like, I don't know if you
I wasn't able to see the chat.
It is. I mean, it's going off. So, folks, here's the thing. If you are interested in asking questions, please grab the mic. And we will, you'll come up on stage, on our main stage. Oh, we got some. Here we go.
Here we go.
Okay.
Here we are. Hey.
Hi.
Hey, Dr. Kim. Hey, Portia. Hi. I'm sorry. Adriana. Buenos dias. So I have a question. So the title of this is Leveraging the Power of Technology to Advance Birth Equity. And I obviously don't have an app in order to do that. But how do you prevent, arrest, avoid the exploitation of Black pain, Black joy, the Black experience using technology? Because you said that you've seen more vaginas online than you've ever seen in your lifetime. But a part of the historical trauma of being a Black woman is the manipulation, the use, and the commoditization of our vaginas.
Absolutely.
So how do you avoid that?
Well, I think the difference now is the people who are posting on Instagram, they're doing it themselves, right? So there's a commodification that has happened on, against us that we couldn't control. And then there's a part of it which feels to me more empowering when we are sharing, right? And we are saying, I'm sharing my birth experience, and I'm sharing, when I meant vaginas, I mean vaginas giving birth. We are doing this, and it's ours to do. Like, we own it, and we are putting it out there versus, historically it has been taken from us and done for us. So I think you are right. There's always a fine line, and, people are walking that journey on an individual level. I think we're walking that as Black women, redefining our sexuality, redefining our power, redefining, we think about I don't know what the award show was when, okay, I'm fresh out of when Megan Thee Stallion and the other sister were right, and it was real. And
Barry and Megan.
Okay, and they were like, "Listen, I don't care what you think about Black sexuality. We get to be free." Right, and that was them doing it for themselves, And I was a little still pearl clutching, but still cheering, a little half and half. But yes, this is very different for us to take that narrative for ourselves. So I think that is, what's different right now for me, in my opinion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to answer a question in the chat. Like, yes, there are options to put your gender and sexuality. We do ask those questions. They are optional, but yes, because ultimately we want to be able to look at those filters. We're about to launch super exciting upgrades for just in time for Christmas. And also, to be clear, all of the reviews are anonymous. No one's name is ever seen in the app. Our backend will automatically anonymize everyone. And then also we have a number of safety features, such as, if you are in a place and someone has identified as in a non-binary way, we would not show reviews unless we have a certain number. And so it varies, but we we take the app on the back end has safety mechanisms so that we aren't, even by circumstance, even by, say I'm a Black person, if this is in Iowa, even that alone could be, revealing. And so, there are mechanisms on the back end so that reviews are not shown until there are enough that we feel can protect people, even just by their identity. So this is really, really important to us because, trust me, even before we launched, we were under attack by these crazy white supremacists who were breaking into, our events, breaking down our website, attacking, it was just crazy. So we do have a good number of safety features going on.
Hi. Thanks for this presentation. I have two questions. My first one is, let's say you have reviews that are repeatedly calling out a particular hospital or a particular provider. At which point is your team approaching these people, and what are your demands at that point? I know you mentioned like training and things like that, but can you expand on that?
Sure. So usually, at this point, just really due to capacity, we run reports once a month, right? So my data analyst team, and we're hoping with some new funding, we can do this more often. And we really try to identify, like what are we seeing, right? So there's sometimes we'll do a run just on dismissiveness of pain levels. Like we can pull out those indicators like I showed you. Sometimes we focus it on a city. So we'll go like city by city where we have the most reviews. And it's mostly in urban centers. So it's not, it's not that hard. So yeah, when we identify a hospital that has patterns, then we reach out to them. Usually, it is me reaching out. They give me a list. Someone has done the research about the top contacts, whether that's the chief nursing officer, the chief patient experience. Usually my team will give me 5 people, and we reach out and we invite them first into a pilot opportunity, right? Like we'd love an opportunity to present what we've seen and heard from our reviews. And to share that with you. So usually, 70% of the time we'll get a meeting, but you can imagine when they understand that Irth is public, this is the biggest issue for hospitals. And the fact that they don't control the data, the fact that they can't control our process is where we lose most people. But this is where we're most steadfast, right? So I'm not going to not show the reviews. People think that we're going to get in a meeting. They're going to be like, well, could you take them down? No, we're not taking them down. we don't take reviews down. So then we invite them to the pilot opportunity, right? So that's really step one. And we'll work on that type of engagement. But ultimately, Irth is a public tool, right? And as you remember, I came to this place as a journalist. So in 2022, we will begin publicly publishing reports and using a media strategy to alert those that we think merit it. So we continually, those hospitals on our list, we have a mechanism to reach back out to them. Hey, would you like to have this conversation? And then we also have a community strategy. Right now, we're working with some doulas in Chicago, in the Chicago area, an area where we saw a lot of issues. So if we can't get the hospitals engaged, we'll go to the birth workers to let them know. Usually they already know. And then to see if we can have a strategy. So now we're collectively saying, what is it that we can do to now address it? And sometimes in Chicago, they're thinking about going a policy level with their local perinatal quality thing. So lots of possible strategies. And we're doing all the things. There hasn't been, besides for the hospital pilot, what we do after that looks differently based on the community.
Okay, thanks. And my last question is, let's say you see something completely egregious that violates even basic human birth rights. Mm-hmm. Have you considered escalating that to, I'm in New York, so like, for example, a local organization that focuses on birth rights or a legal
yes,
nonprofit?
Here in New York City, we have the Human Rights Commission. I forgot what it's called, but yes, they reached out to us and asked us the same exact thing. If you see an Irth review that you feel violates and escalates, please let us know. So we are in constant contact. I can't remember the agency, very, very committed person of color there. So yes, that is something that we constantly look through. We have a moderation team. So all Irth reviews are read and approved before they are allowed into the app. And so the moderation team also flags. Right. And so if we see something, sometimes we're flagging to see if we can send an email. Maybe it seemed pretty traumatic. And right now, hopefully 2022, we don't have the prompts to encourage people to, hey, have you thought about a perinatal mental health therapist? So again, we do some of that in our moderation. Including if we see something extreme. People report deaths. We actually have a special icon. Oh, first of all, we have a special icon for doulas. So when a doula leaves a review, it has a special icon. So our users know this review was left by a doula. We really want them to see that. We also have a special icon when someone reports an infant death. I think it's really, really important that we keep account for our community. Too many times I have been given presentation, Chanel, you were there at one, where people are standing up and sharing about their babies dying and then just keep talking, right? Like we've normalized our babies dying. I can't stand for that. So we also have a mechanism within the app where you can share if you've lost an infant. We note that, and then on the back end, our team reaches out. So again, really trying to make sure that our community is keeping record. The hospital may want to forget past the headlines or whatever, but we're not going to forget. And so we have these markers in the app so that we don't forget. Yes, and no, hospitals do not have to be with us. No hospitals are with us. Irth reviews every place, every hospital, every doctor. The ones that are in pilots, we already had reviews for them anyway, and they decided that it was in their best interest to work with us. So sorry. Hello, let me hear your question.
Hi, hello. First of all, thank you so much for this presentation. It's very inspiring, and I've actually been crying through it. There's a lot that comes up when we talk about maternal death. But my question is super simple. Are there plans in the future for Irth to expand internationally? And I ask this because I live in Mexico. I was a birth worker for about 8 years in New York, and I got to see the New York birth situation as a doula. But now I am in Mexico, still practicing as a doula. I live in a rural indigenous community, and the situation for us is that what we think is bad in U.S. hospitals is 10 times worse in Mexican hospitals, public hospitals and private hospitals. And it's so commonplace. And it's, I usually say it's a butcher shop. Like, it's disgusting. And we need mechanisms like these, right? Apps like these. So I don't know. It would be amazing if you bring Irth to Mexico. So I don't know if it's in the plans.
I would love to bring Irth to Mexico. International expansion is in our Q4 plan. Our first country where we know we will be is the UK. And then we are working, hopefully really soon, with some potential funders about expanding to some other countries. Mexico is on that short list, so I will keep you posted. So we are looking, kind of broadly, but really wanting to center what's happening in the U.S., centering Black women first, and then thinking about how we expand that to other places. But it is on our product roadmap. What's your name?
Yes. Monse Olmos.
Oh, Monse. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much. And I'm here for it. I'm here to see Irth expand and even to contribute in the ways that are possible. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Nicole, I see your question. Irth has plenty of white women who leave reviews in the app. We don't turn any reviews away. We know, it sounds like your friend as well. Oh, thank you. Group therapy. I would love to stay in touch about that. Just answering that question. So basically, there are a couple of things. white women leave reviews in the app. We have asked white women to understand that right now we are centering Black women in this experience, right? However, I know that one, we need to see the distinctions in the data, right? Because sometimes a place just sucks for everybody, and that needs to be clear too, right? And in our full vision, white women are using their power as well to use the app, right? And so how do white women who want to be allies in this work pull out their Irth app, search their Irth reviews, and choose their providers, and or let their providers know that they are looking at those reviews? That is when all women can use their power in service of those who are being disproportionately harmed by the system. That is the plan. That is the vision. Right now, we are centering Black women, and we are creating a safe space for them first, right? And so this is what I've said. I've said it on social media. And so we ask white women to spread the word about Irth, to share within their platforms, and introduce us to resources, and to allow Black people and other people of color to build this space first. And then we invite you in to use it. We know that white women have power as well. And for me, this is an all women's issue, and that we can all use our consumer power in service of Black and brown folks. So that time is coming. If it is of help to her, please invite her to leave a review in the app. When we present, we share data on all reviews. And so that's important. Yes. Okay. This has been so exciting. And again, I want to just pop two links in the chat. One, if you're interested in getting, some postcards or pens, we can send these out, a small amount out to you at no cost. This is the form to request it. If you're interested in learning about taking part in our doula ambassador program, I'm going to share that link. And then if you're in New York City and you want to come hang out with us on December 12th, Chanel, I hope you're going to be there, because I'm planning on having a party to end this year out.
Okay, now.
Please follow Irth on social media at the Irth app, where you'll see, particularly on Instagram, all of our details that we'll be announcing today, and the RSVP form. I hope you will take advantage of it early. It's a free event. We really just wanted to celebrate doulas, give you a great time at a really nice place. And thank you for the work that you've been doing.
Give thanks. Let's everybody give a round of applause for this beautiful presentation. Kimberly, as always, you keep it real, lay it down, give it to us straight. Before we get off, folks, we're gonna take a group selfie, and so make sure you got your faces together. I'm gonna click it on the screen. Make sure everything is right. Okay. All right. All right, it's going to ask you to take a photo. You can retake it as many times as you want before you actually submit it. So, get ready.
Okay.
Okay. We got them coming in. Here we go.
This is such a cute feature. I love this. This is too cute.
Yes, this way we can all join in. If the links were not working, we will be sure to put them in the Decolonized Birth group app so that everyone has access to them. So don't worry. We still have folks saying, I hope this comes to Caribbean countries are being considered for expansions too. The Bahamas, for example, is predominantly Black country that has a maternal mortality rate of 70 per 100,000 live births. Yeah. So
much need, y'all, and we really have to, thank you for sharing that. We really have to leverage our collective power here. We can do it. But it's got to be public, and we have to hold them accountable. because there's been zero accountability in any of these things.
Yes, exactly. We have folks saying you need to come to West Africa too.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Nice. All right, folks, 2 more seconds, 2 more minutes before we close out the group selfie. We got 57 people who have finished. Come on now. Let's go. Let's go. We don't mind if you got babies in the background. We know how it is. Listen, just make sure that you look good from the top, from the waist up.
Right. Sometimes you gotta lean in, just give a strong eye. Give a strong eye.
Put your lips on real quick.
Right. Just, put your lips and eyes in on it.
There you go. Oh my goodness, this has been amazing.
This is amazing. Are we going to see the finished picture? Only you get to see it. How does this work?
We're all going to see the finished picture. People are still taking pics. We up to 66 now. 67. It's still going.
Okay. It's still going.
Yes, it's still going. Folks are like, I'm trying to get in this.
Cool.
Listen, we're gonna share this out. We'll have the details for the New York City gathering, as well as how to connect to the app, as well as the toolkit. So that everyone has an opportunity to share with it in your networks. As birth workers, as folks there's a lot of different folks from different places who are on this right now. We have the power to leverage community in amazing ways, and so my mind automatically went to policy. And I was like, ooh, okay. You know what I mean? And when we think about the systems and the ways in which we don't have reliable accountability mechanisms, this is a great tool for really being able to center that and lift that up. So I give thanks. All right, we're going to end the group fee. Here we go.
Yeah.
It's rendering. Let's see. And so many of us, we done broke the system.
Yay! Yay, this is so cool.
Nice. I'm going to save this.
I'm going to save it too.
All right, y'all. So this is amazing. Kimberly, again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom.
You saw I said, you had me at hello. Anytime. Emails, calls, texts, pings, pigeon, you have me at hello. Anything for you, sis. I'm so grateful.
Oh, give thanks, sis. I appreciate that very, very much. You have no idea. All right, y'all. Get ready to join us. We have, the only thing about being in a virtual platform is that anybody who's come to the Decolonized Birth Conference, that the food, like we be real intentional about the food. Like, I don't know if there's any folks on here who have come in previous years, about the vegan sushi, about that cornmeal porridge. Okay. Yeah. Like come on now. We make it happen. We make it happen. About the sandwiches and all of the things and how we gather around in community. We don't have the food this year, but we do have live music. And so we have a live DJ who is going to be on the 1 and 2s during lunch. So while you are eating and preparing, please, take a picture. Take a picture as you are in this. Tag us. Use the hashtag, hashtag decolonizedbirth21, hashtag center hope. And tag us in your photos. How are you centering yourself today? What does community look like in us building and growing and movement building, even in this virtual space, even though we're not together in the physical? We're here spiritually. We're here. Our ancestors are here, are with us. Look, it was a full moon and an eclipse last night. Hello. Okay. So if that's not divine, I don't know what is. And so definitely, let us know, what are you doing for the day, and tag us on social media. We're super happy and excited. And then all of these sessions are being recorded. And so you'll be able to come back and revisit them, and be able to share them out with your colleagues in your community. Kimberly, again, I appreciate you very much. And I'm very, very humbled to have you here today. And yeah, y'all, Enjoy lunch, and we'll see you this afternoon. Peace, peace, peace.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy.